Hello, I'm Dr. Christian Coachman. I'm here in Mallorca at the exocad Insights and just gave a lecture that was recorded, and I'm inviting you all to watch it online, the 7 Steps Towards Ideal Modern Dentistry. See you online. Thank you, Align. Thank you, exocad. A pleasure to be back, opening one more important day here and sharing a lecture that actually brings together my 30 years experience as a technician, as a lab owner, as a dentist, but more than anything, as a technician. I usually say that every time I'm lecturing, I'm always speaking much more as a technician than as a dentist. That's where I learned everything that I do. That's where I give my best to the profession. And that's where all my concepts were developed. And this lecture brings my analysis of everything that I went through these 30 years, precisely 31 years doing lab work. It's a curation of insights when I started to ask myself, what is next for me? What is next for our lab? What is next for dentistry? What is my feeling of where we are heading? What makes us a modern dentist? What makes us a modern technician and a modern team? The first thing that is pretty obvious is to understand that modern dentistry is a team sport. Everybody talks about it. It sounds pretty obvious, but it's not that obvious. Even though we know that high quality dentistry needs to be delivered by a team approach, we see that tools, systems, and concepts are not there yet. And we still work in a fragmented way without a more professional team approach. We take this concept of team approach too casually, not as professional as we should. What it means to be a professional team, what it means to be a professional team player. We are professional clinicians and we are professional technicians, but not necessarily professional team players. Every great team needs a great captain. Great captain needs leadership. Leadership requires communication. Communication requires professional communication systems. And that's where we usually make most of our mistakes. Low quality communication. The other initial insight is that for me is very clear, and every year becomes more and more clear that the future of dentistry is in the lab. The lab is the hub. The lab is the center. The lab will become much more important than the actual clinic of the dentist. Because the lab will centralize decision making. The lab will centralize diagnostics. The lab will centralize treatment planning. The lab will centralize the best specialists. The lab will centralize technologies. The lab will centralize AI. The lab will be on the cloud, and the lab will be connected to the clinicians, helping clinicians diagnose, plan, present, and execute better. So it's an unbelievable moment for dentistry in general, but even more exciting for labs. Labs will hire dentists. Labs will hire treatment planners. Labs will hire diagnosticians. Labs will hire technology experts. In the lab, we also have one advantage over the dentist when it comes to understanding the future of dentistry. Because in the lab, we have something that is bigger than in the dental clinic, and that's sampling, volume. If a dentist sees a challenging situation once or twice a month in average, if we have 500 clients in the lab, we see that same situation 1,000 times per month. No wonder why Align became the best ortho lab in the world. They have all the data. They know all the trends. They have the best treatment planners. They know where the ortho world is going. You cannot beat sampling combined with smart people analyzing those samples. That's the lab. Ortho companies are becoming labs. Implant companies are becoming labs. Ortho companies are becoming implant companies. Implant companies are becoming ortho companies. Ortho companies are becoming software companies. Software companies are becoming labs. Labs are becoming software companies. That's where the future happens. And that's what dentists need. They need this support. Because being a dentist is already extremely challenging. Being a great clinician, handling the patient, understanding so many things that a dentist needs to understand. The dentist needs help, and the dentist needs to outsource how to leverage technology. So I want to share with you 7 insights that I believe will dictate this collaboration, dentist lab, and in my vision, will create modern dentistry. So let's go. Number 1 change, number 1 movement, number 1 step. It's in here, like everything in history. Only changes when the mindset changes. So the first step to do modern dentistry is that clinicians need to go beyond just being technical dentists as we see today. We are mechanical dentists. And make the choice of becoming oral physicians. That's the future. Because the way we do dentistry today, and even the best dentists in the world, we are still too inconsistent when it comes to diagnostics and treatment planning. We are biased when it comes to our decision making, and we are superficial when it comes to the treatments that we offer. So the first step is to agree with that, accept it, embrace it, and then change it. Our treatment plans are inconsistent because dentistry was always biased towards execution. Since college and dental school, everything is much more focused on how to do things than how to decide what to do. Dentistry is biased because we usually do what we like to do and we see what we like to see. We are still far from looking at patients in a holistic way. So we try to fit patients into our box instead of analyzing the patient as a whole. We are superficial because we are just starting to learn how much we don't know in terms of body-mouth connection, oral-systemic connection, the integration between bite and posture, arch and airway, oral health and systemic health. We see all these topics are just starting to hit mainstream now. So usually we end up providing treatments that are, with our best intentions, technically very good, but we are definitely missing the opportunity of going deeper and generating much more life-changing outcomes. As I like to say, I like to build plans understanding the impact of this plan on the last 10 years of my patient's life. Think about that. If my patient is 50 years old and I'm planning a full mouth rehabilitation for my patient, or 40 years old and I'm planning some aligners and veneers for my patient, I need to understand that this patient will probably live until 90 years old. So the consequences of my decisions today with the patient will, of course, impact the next decade of my patient's life, but most of all, the last 10 years of their life, from 80 to 90. And when you look at patients from that perspective, every decision changes. And it's a much more beautiful way to decide and to treatment plan. We need to change from reactive type of dentistry into proactive care, focusing on longevity and prevention. So it's a different way to look at our patients, seeing beyond, understanding that more than great clinicians, we need super diagnosticians. And we need to leverage technology to diagnose better and to connect this information to make better decisions. So what makes us modern? It's not technology. Technology helps us to become modern. But what really makes us modern is the mindset. So if we have all the technology in the world and an old mindset, we are still an old school dentist technician. So we need to ask ourselves and challenge ourselves what it means to have a modern dental mindset. It's beautiful to see that companies are moving and realizing that the power is at the beginning of the process, what I call the exploration phase, before we even know what is the treatment. It's unbelievable to see how a scanner like iTero, from just being an alginate substitute 10 years ago, became a powerhouse, chairside, to explore and understand the human being in front of us. And we know that if we know how to explore these technologies, we can improve the process of diagnosing, planning, and presenting dentistry to our patients. As I always say, the revolution of dentistry happens on the first appointment. We need to change completely the way we perform the first appointment. And for that, the dentist needs two things: technology and the support of the lab. The lab is the best partner of the dentist to improve the first appointment. We're going to see how. So that's number one, the mindset change. From technical, mechanical dentist to oral physician approach. Number two change for better modern dentistry is to understand the difference between procedure planning and treatment planning, and companies are finally starting to realize this difference. Every software in dentistry was designed to be a procedure planning software, not a treatment planning software. Every dentist that says, I use technology to treatment plan, in fact, uses technology to procedure plan, not to treatment plan. What is the difference? Procedure plan is when we use technology to plan a procedure that we already know the patient needs. Treatment planning means to use technology to explore a plan that I still don't know what it is. Treatment plan means building the treatment plan. Procedure plan means I know what the patient needs. Let me use technology to plan the specific procedure. Very different. And it's very important for dentists and technicians to understand that, so we can push the industry, because we make much more mistakes on treatment planning than on procedure planning. It's much more difficult to do treatment planning than to do procedure planning. So we need technology to integrate the concepts of modern, facially driven, airway driven treatment planning, systemic treatment planning, exploration. We need help for that, because that's not easy. Dentistry can be divided in two: before we know what to do and after we know what to do. Before the patient says yes and after the patient says yes. Dentistry is completely biased towards performance, education, technology, solutions, expertise. That's the focus. We need to shift the focus, because where we need the most help and where technology should help is on the exploration phase, before we know what to do, how technology can help us make better decisions. Diagnose, plan, and sell. The three magical words to grow a dental practice. So when we look at softwares, we see that all the softwares were designed to plan procedures after major decisions were already done. And we need to use technology to explore the interdisciplinary brainstorm exploration of possibilities, the impact of one procedure over the other, incorporating the basic principles that guides modern diagnostics, holistic, comprehensive, systemic, interdisciplinary diagnostics and treatment planning, to understand all the options, risk assessment, pros and cons, decision-making, and building the plan. So dental software world, in my personal classification, can be divided into four groups. Everything we know about software is actually what I call type 3. Software to plan a specific procedure and design specific devices. And then you have softwares to connect with manufacturing. We started to wake up for the fact that planning is more difficult than execution, and companies started to improve the procedure planning process. But where we need help is what I call type 1 software. It's the software that allows us to see the face, see the body, see the system, and explore all types of simulations, from ortho, perio, restorative, surgery, orthognathic, everything together, because the only way to plan is to have this open book of possibilities to understand what makes sense and what doesn't. And that's when technology will completely change dentistry, when we start to build real plans with technology. This is what we need from an exploration software. And it's beautiful to see that Align is fully on board, really trying to transform their tools from procedure planning tools into full comprehensive exploration tools. And then you have what I call the umbrella. That's the future. Because all the softwares that you see at the bottom, they plan events from interdisciplinary exploration to procedure planning and execution. A full mouth rehabilitation is an event, is not a journey. The patient will be a patient for decades. Imagine, from 10 years old to 90 years old, I'm going to be a patient for 80 years. All the technology in the world is focused on helping dentists to plan one event. And the revolution will happen when we can have technology that connects the journey, all the data that helps us understand the context, overlap the information, so at any given moment, we have a better chance of making a better decision. That is the future. So that's number 2. Number 3 step for modern dentistry is that we need to stop making decisions without leveraging visuals. It makes no sense on the 21st century for a dentist to make a decision without leveraging 3D visualization. Everything that the dentist decides without looking at visuals becomes a bigger guess. It doesn't matter how experienced the dentist is. So on top of the regular classic visual information that dentists are using since decades, it's pretty obvious that with technology, we can see beyond, we can see through, we can see comparisons. Every major decision needs to be visually guided. And of course, it's pretty obvious how technology will impact the process of decision making. Acquiring data, processing data, presenting data, sharing data, it's all visual. The worst way to try to explain dentistry to somebody, to a specialist, to a lab, and to the patient is through words. Images and 3D simulations are the best way to express ourselves and to see. So why do we use technology? To see things. So we make mistakes on the computer instead of making them in the mouth. That's what we need to tell the patients. I made all the possible mistakes in 3D, so there's a much lower chance of making mistakes in your mouth now. Simulate before performing, see before deciding, visually guided decision making. So you need to ask yourself, what are the major decisions that you are making for your patients, and what are the visuals that can improve the chances of making a better decision? Visually guided decision making. And who is the best partner of the dentist to have visuals to make better decisions? The lab. Makes no sense for dentists to buy all these technologies and waste time in front of the computer generating all these visuals. It makes no sense because the lab can do better, faster, and cheaper. So, making visual analysis mandatory, treat the patient before you actually treat the patient, should be mandatory. And it's so obvious and so beautiful how simple images can help us see the discrepancies and basically compare where we are and where we want to be. Modern treatment plan is nothing but understanding where we are, where we want to be, and how we're going to get there. The best way to see this is through visuals. So companies need to help us generate reports, and that word is the next big step of technology. It's not only about giving us the tools and showing us the images, it's about automating reports. What are you seeing? What this visual image is giving us back? How can we organize the process of analyzing what we are seeing? And of course, it's pretty obvious to understand that with all the data and AI, a scanner will start to give us back not only images, but reports, suggestions, summaries, insights, bullet points, our blind spots. Technology is there to cover or minimize our blind spots. Step number 4. Not only we need to leverage visuals to make better decisions, but of course, obvious again, we need to leverage collective intelligence. It makes no sense for a dentist on the 21st century to make a decision alone. If you can throw a situation in the cloud and connect that situation with other experts that can complement your know-how, plus AI, it's pretty obvious that even a simple decision can be improved by collective intelligence plus artificial intelligence. Every new patient deserves a report from the orthodontist, for example. It makes no sense for a restorative dentist not to connect the data to the orthodontist for absolutely every single patient. Even if the response for the orthodontist is, this patient doesn't need ortho. That's how hospitals work. You have professional checklists and systems to avoid what? Blind spots. We don't jump into conclusions. We follow processes. It's healthcare. So collaborative dentistry is obviously the future. It's easy to say, but very, 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 very few dentists are actually doing it. Very few. There's so much to be improved, and it's again beautiful to see how companies like Align are developing solutions to help us collaborate. This is the next most important development in technology in dentistry. It's not about improving even more the tools that we have. It's to help us collaborate better. Collective intelligence, collaborative dentistry. No more lonely decisions. Because it's proven that the quality of treatment plans developed by dentists are not ideal. If I send a patient to 10 different great dentists in town, this patient will come back with 10 completely different diagnostics and treatment plans and estimates, showing how unprofessional our profession is when it comes to building a plan, to building a diagnostic report. We cannot be that different. It's the same human being. It doesn't matter if you're an orthodontist or a periodontist, if you love to do all-on-4 or all you do is veneers. When it comes to the first appointment, you need to be a super generalist, not a super specialist. Our plans are not ideal. It's very easy to prove. With the 5 minutes discussion, with the 5 minutes brainstorm, we can improve almost every treatment plan created by a dentist in the world. And it's very important to tell the patient, the outcome is only good as the plan. How can we raise the level of dentistry? By raising the level of treatment planning. Treatment planning is the ceiling. Comprehensive, interdisciplinary, systemic treatment planning. Not procedure planning. Treatment planning is the ceiling. Our clinical result will hit that ceiling. When our clinical outcome is better than our treatment plan, how do we call that? That is called luck. We were just lucky. And it happens once in a while. But if we want to raise the level of our dentistry, what is the best investment? Raise the level of diagnostics and treatment plan. As we raise that level, everything follows. It's also obvious. The number one enemy of treatment planning is not even our know-how. It's the fact that we don't have the time to go through the proper treatment planning process. If a dentist sees 20, 25 new patients per month, it means that whatever I'm trying to convince you here needs to be repeated 20, 25 times per month. Whatever amazing technology that we use to treatment plan needs to be used 20, 25 times a month. And we don't have the time. So that's why we usually go back and we continue to do things the way we used to. So what do we need from the companies? We need to use their intelligence and their resources to find ways to treatment plan better without wasting time. And the only way to do it is through integrated, cloud-based, asynchronous, and visual professional communication platforms. Systematic, mandatory processes that once we learn it, it becomes ultra automatic and easy to repeat for every single patient. 20, 30 times per month. Asynchronous visual communication. Still today, huge majority of dentists are using synchronous communication ways to make interactions with other team members. Phone calls, Zoom calls, in-person meetings, morning meetings, etc. This is not a system because it cannot be replicated. We cannot have a meeting 25 times per month with our orthodontist to treatment plan the ortho part of the 25 new patients per month. This is not a system. It needs to be asynchronous and it needs to be happening on our phone. Whatever system we're going to use to treatment plan our cases needs to be on our phone, not only on our phone, on the homepage of our phone with the notifications on, integrating all the data and all the specialists and all the tools to allow us to make decisions as a team without wasting time. We need to master the process of using our phone for treatment planning because the world happens on the phone. That's the only way to make it fast. We need to master the process of visual communication on the phone. We need to master the process of creating data with the phone, filming, recording, taking pictures of the situation. We need to create the protocols of how to communicate with the specialist and with the lab through the phone. The dentist needs to transform their phone into the third eye of their specialist and the lab. I'm the lab. I tell my dentist, take your phone and make your phone my third eye. I can see everything that you're seeing through your phone. Show me, criticize me, suggest to me, recommend, teach me, listen to me through the phone. We need to become experts on finger drawing, voicing over, print screens, zoom, crop, draw, record, share. Fast, fast, every single situation. Every single little challenge becomes a learning experience. So the future of visual communication, it's pretty obvious what needs to happen. Doctors need to transform patients into avatars and throw the information in the cloud, connecting specialists and the lab. The lab needs to grab that information, and when I say lab, I mean every single company, regular labs, aligner companies, implant, everybody is a lab. The lab will grab this information and generate the initial facially driven, airway-driven diagnostic design as the blueprint of where we want to be. Sharing back this initial suggestion so the dentist and the specialist can analyze it, ask for changes. The lab will then improve based on these visual guidelines, share back the improvement that will be approved by the dentist and the team, and will start guiding the treatment plan exploration. Treatment plan exploration will generate 3D simulations done by the lab, trying to represent these ideas to allow the dentist to then evaluate their decisions and either approve or change, make more simulations in 3D to confirm if the decisions and ideas are good until the treatment plan is approved. The lab will translate the treatment plan into a beautiful visual story, sending back this story to the dentist that will present to the patient that will say yes. We need a platform for that. It needs to be convenient, replicable, easy, obvious, so we can repeat 20, 30 times per month. We need to understand how to start with a simple visual template on how to summarize the situation of the patient today, how to generate images to understand the vision of the future, where we want to be, and then what type of images we need to explore different treatment possibilities. What we need is to make the avatar transformation, transforming patients into avatar, mandatory, always the same way. Ideal, complete information. We need to choose which platform that we're going to interact visually, asynchronously. We need to then develop the protocol of first and second appointment, diagnostics, treatment planning, and selling. And then we need to choose what app in the phone will make this happen, because only if it's in the phone, things will happen. It's very easy to understand that when we are transforming somebody's smiles, there are many moments that we can make mistakes, right? We know that. We can make a mistake right at the beginning, missing something on the clinical examination. Or maybe we can make a mistake on the diagnostic initial design that is not ideal because we didn't see something. We can make a mistake before we prep at the mock-up phase. We can make a mistake when we are scanning implants, ortho, building the prescription. We can make a mistake at the provisional phase, or we can miss the opportunity to identify a problem at the provisional phase. We can miss the opportunity to identify the problem when the scan comes back to the lab. We can miss the opportunity when we are designing the restorations. We design the restorations and for any reason we don't see that the problem is there. We can miss the opportunity to see a mistake after we manufacturing and we are shipping the case back. Dentists can look at the case on the model before the patient comes in and miss the chance of identifying that mistake. And sometimes we even try in the case and we don't see the mistake. And of course, the worst moment to make a mistake is after we bond. And this is so common. I would say that the most common moments for us, dentists and technicians, to realize we made a mistake or we missed an opportunity is right at the end. How many times the dentist is looking at the case on the model and saying, this is not good. Horrible moment to see a mistake, right? Or on the try-in, I don't like this. So my question is, when I don't like something, I ask myself, could I have identified this before? And if we don't have systems, it's impossible to make that a routine. The most expensive moment to make a mistake is towards the end. So what do we need? We need technologies. We need checklists. We need to quality control systems. We need to learn from professionals. Dentists, labs, we know so little about quality control systems. And this can save so much energy. How can we identify possible issues at the beginning, not at the end? Number 5 step. Finally, clinical execution. The future belongs to guided execution. It doesn't matter how good we are with our hands, the future is guided, period. Makes no sense to fight against it. Invisalign actually made the revolution happen 25 years ago, guiding orthodontics. That's why aligners make sense. For me, philosophically speaking, the number one reason why 20 years ago, when I first saw aligners, I said to myself, this is the future. It was because philosophically, regardless of how aligners were good biomechanically at that time, I knew that was the future because philosophically, we were designing things on the computer and we were translating the project to the mouth. That is the future, guided dentistry. It's not guided implants, it's guided everything. So the question is, do we want to be among the first ones to understand this or among the last ones to understand? Because the advantages are obvious. The future on this regard is obvious. The number one reason why guided procedures are the best way to go is because even if you don't use the guide, if you throw the guide on the trash, just by the fact of you deciding to guide the procedure, it forced you to do what? To plan the procedure in advance, to invest on your treatment planning. Every time you look at a guide, you are telling yourself, the plan must be great because I trust this guide and I'm gonna follow the guide, so the plan better be good. Philosophically, it forces us to plan better. So guided dentistry means that we simulate before we perform, that we perform utilizing devices to translate vision into reality, and that we do quality control that will become routine as well. Every procedure will be scanned, the outcome compared to the plan. It's gonna throw the reality in our faces. And patients will demand, I wanna compare the plan with the outcome and see how good we were. This is the future to allow us to fine-tune, to get better, to push ourselves. How can I become more precise next time between the plan and the execution? Modern dentistry generates outcomes more similar to plans. Modern orthodontists are focused on delivering outcomes more similar to plans. Modern periodontists, prosthodontists, restorative dentists, outcomes more similar to plans. Modern technicians understand copy-paste dentistry to leverage technology to deliver outcomes more similar to plans. That's the future. Copy-paste dentistry is all about the lab, understanding guided procedures. Final restorations, as similar as provisionals. Final bite, as similar as the bite that was planned. Final soft tissue, as similar as the soft tissue was planned. Final tooth position, as similar to the position that was planned. Final ceramics, provisionals, mock-ups, and digital plans, they are connected. They're not identical, and we need to explain that to the patient, but they are very similar. The more similar, the better. We need to show our effort to deliver outcomes more similar to plans. We need to show to patients that digital quality control is a routine. It's not just for lectures. We design tooth movement, we execute treatments, and we overlap at the end. First, to show to the patient. Second, to make the decisions. Is it good enough? On ortho-restorative cases, quality control, 3D visual quality control is mandatory for us. The same thing with perio-restorative cases, crown lengthening and restorations. Design the gum raise, execute, and quality control. And as you start to do all these things, you start to really become effective, efficient. You start to be able to do more procedures in the same appointment. Everything is guided. And in one shot, you change the bite, you change the gum, you change the bone, you change the aesthetics. And the outcome is more similar to the plan. Number 6, and that's what I've been saying. This is the key. Without number 6, number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are impossible. It is impossible for a dentist to do this without the lab. The lab is the hub. The lab is the center. The lab invests on the technology, on the people to allow this because the lab has the volume. So you, the dentist, need to find their partner. A lab that already understands this or a lab that is willing to embrace this challenge. Who is the ortho company that understands this? Who is the implant company that understands this? Who is the restorative lab that understands this or are willing to learn? Because nobody, neither us, labs, dentists, or companies have this completely figured out yet. It's a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful journey. We need partnerships to continue this journey. A cloud-based interdisciplinary technological support. That's what the lab is. Fabricating restorations or aligners is a detailed. It's one of the tools, is one of the outcomes of a much bigger partnership. So you have the clinical team, you have the manufacturing team, and the center, you have the brain. That's what modern dentistry needs. 3 teams working together. And the final step to deliver modern dentistry, in my opinion, is of course the interaction with the patient. Because everything I just said may make sense, hopefully, to most of you. It may sound attractive and interesting, but somebody has to pay for it. And that's the patient. So if the lab doesn't help the dentist translate to the patient how amazing all of these things are, nobody has work. So for me, since the beginning, as a technician myself, one of the main things, 2 things that I wanted to become. I wanted to become a great ceramist, and I wanted to help my dentist convince patients. Because I could only make more money if the dentist was making more money. So how to become a master treatment plan presenter. Understanding human connection and how the lab can help. Strategic workflows to present treatment plans and how the lab can help. Building the plan and defending the philosophy, how the lab can help. So for us, the process of diagnosing, planning, presenting, and executing is all based on decision-making improvement based on visuals. So every key moment, we develop reports and visuals together with the dentist to help them on each of these moments. And treatment planning presentation is one of them. So think about the most common things that the dentist is trying to convince a patient to do. Think about all the factors that influence that decision. All the visuals that can help us to evaluate those factors. And then at the end, all the images and simulations to defend that idea in front of the patient. It's like a lawyer in the court defending its client in front of the jury. We are the lawyer, dentists and technicians. We are the lawyer. We build a plan. We need to defend it. We need to convince others about the plan. Who is our client? It's not the patient. Our client is the plan. We need to defend our client, the plan. And the patient is what? The patient is the jury, looking at us and trying to find reasons not to do it. So there's no better way than a visual strategy, visual storytelling to defend a plan. So we've been working on situations, the visuals to decide what is the best solution, and then the visuals to convince the patient about our decision. If decision A is better, if decision B is better, from all the tools that we have, it's pretty easy to understand how overwhelming it is. We need help. Companies need to generate automated reports for each individual situation that we are facing to facilitate. This is the problem. These are the possible solutions. We believe this is the best option because of X, Y, Z. Look at the images. So different scenarios, different situations, different visuals to try to defend the plan. And we can go over and over here, showing situations and showing the best images to defend the decision that we made. So the patient can value it, can embrace it, can understand it. So when we are presenting treatment plans, it's like combining the best treatment planner in the world with the best communicator in the world. I call it visual storytelling. Visual storytelling. And I focus a lot of time on how to present plans to patients. This is one of my main topics. How do we present treatment plans to patients? Because as we see in social media, that is extremely sad. The amount of bad decisions that our profession is making in the name of whatever, usually aesthetics, it's insane. It's much easier to convince patients to do the wrong dentistry than it is to convince the patient to do the right dentistry. The more ethical we are, the better communicator we need to be to make the patient see that. It's very hard for patients to see it. Patients need to understand that yes, dentistry can make people look better, but this is one dimension of health. Dentistry can do so much more for people if we change the way we diagnose, the way we plan, and the way we present. That's why number 7, modern ethical motivation strategies, presentation strategies is key, is the only way to sponsor all the other beautiful ideas that I shared. I really believe that everything I'm showing here is realistic, is replicable. It's not only I believe, I know, because that's what we do with dentists that were courageous enough to embrace the challenge of expanding the way they do dentistry. It's also through these systems that we can do more quality with less stress. Life is already stressful enough. Dentistry is already stressful enough. We need to be smart about the systems and technologies that we use so our life is a little less stressful. I really hope that these 7 insights not only make sense, but hopefully can inspire some of you to help us continue this journey together. Thank you. Thank you.